What's up, everybody? Welcome to Sector for Nerds. Today I'm here to have a chat with you guys about a Star Wars series that I feel like a lot of times I see getting backlash from the Star Wars community, and that's the Book of Boba Fett. So today we're going to have a chat about it and talking about why I don't think it's as bad as people make it out to be. Now, to be clear on my stance on this show, I think this is probably like a B-level show at best. If it weren't for some episodes that we get, it would probably be a C-level show. But I wouldn't give it an F by any means. Now, before we begin talking about it, make sure you guys like this video and subscribe to the channel. Lots of great content going up every single week, you guys, so you definitely don't want to miss out on any of it. So one of the common criticisms that I always see with this show is that it didn't feel like Boba Fett. It's not the way that Boba Fett would act or the things that he would do. Like, what happened to the kick-ass bounty hunter that we see, in Empire Strikes Back, what we read about in comics and legends. And I get it, I really do. What I have a bit of respect for about this series is that they definitely tried something different with Boba Fett. Kind of in a way that the prequel trilogy of Star Wars was different than the original trilogy. And then how the sequel trilogy was different from the prequel trilogy or the original trilogy. For better or worse, Star Wars is always trying out new and different things. Some of which work, some of which don't. So they definitely tried something different with Boba Fett. And while I don't think that it worked to the full extent that it could have, there was one episode in particular from like the first 4 episodes that I really enjoyed, and that was the train heist episode. I thought that episode in particular told an incredible story of a man who was becoming accepted by a tribe of people that we originally thought were these just like mindless monsters that we hear about in A New Hope or in Attack of the Clones. But this episode really got you to sympathize with the Tusken Raiders. When the Tusken Raiders help the citizens in Mandalorian Season 2, that first episode, it felt like a matter of like, well, the enemy of my enemy is my friend, so we're willing to put our differences aside. But here, it really felt like we humanized the Tuskens. And I thought that was so cool. Maybe some people will say otherwise, but I enjoyed it. And again, just this idea, I mean, first of all, like, everyone loves a good train heist, you know what I'm saying? So that's always fun to watch. But then, Boba teaching the Tuskens how to ride speeder bikes. That's where we get the like a bantha meme from.
And we had to do some scenes like a bantha.
Yes! And then, like, the final bit of the episode where he really gets, like, inducted into this tribe, and we see him creating his own gaffy stick, and the, whole dance, choreography thing that we get at the end is super cool. All in all, that was a really good episode. I think I had even said at the time, too, that I didn't necessarily care about what Boba Fett was doing in, like, the current Mandoverse timeline, but I love seeing, like, those flashback scenes and seeing, like, how we went from the Sarlacc pit to getting to where we see him today. So, like, I watched that episode in particular and I go, like, well, I can't hate on this series because I thought that was such a good episode. The first episode was fine. Episodes 3 and 4 happened. And at the rate it was going, it was like, okay, yeah, this is a C-level show. And then the end of episode 4 happened, and Boba says, I need muscle. And Fennec Shan goes, credits can buy muscle, if you know where to look. And you get that little Mando music cue, kind of signifying like, oh, we're gonna get help from the Mandalorian, aren't we? But what I don't think people ended up expecting at the time was that from this moment forward, the Mandalorian was gonna hijack the series, which honestly is probably the best thing that could have happened to it, believe it or not, because we ended up getting like really good episodes out of it. I think the whole thing with this show is just the marketing of it was wrong, because this show, I feel like episodes 1 through 4 of this show was the Book of Boba Fett. And then episodes 5 through 7 were basically Mando Season 2.5. Now, honestly, you guys, I think if they would have just done it, we're like, okay, Book of Boba Fett, we're going to do this little short series of 4 episodes called the Book of Boba Fett, and it's going to explain how we get from, you know, the Boba Fett that we see at the end of Return of the Jedi to getting him to where he is in The Mandalorian. And then you have that music cue at the end, and it teases The Mandalorian. And then episode 5 of the Book of Boba Fett is actually Mando Season 3, the beginning of that. And the first 3 episodes of Mando Season 3 could have been, you know, bringing the Mandalorian in, but also getting to finish this Boba Fett story as well. I think that would have been great. And then, honestly, you guys, we think like, okay, well, if we make Mando like 8 episodes, what do? Get rid of the Jack Black and Lizzo episode. We didn't need that. Heck, combine episodes 1 and 2 if you really want to. And that's how you condense it down. But unfortunately, that's not what happened, and this is what we got instead. But yeah, like that first episode with the Mandalorian, you guys, like getting to see how sad he is not being with Grogu and him being exiled from his own tribe. Like, it's really sad stuff. And then eventually we get to see him go to Naboo and make the Starfighter, and then Fennec Shan recruits them. It was all good stuff. And then episode 6 happened. From the desert comes a stranger. And to this day, that episode is still my favorite episode of the Disney Plus era of Star Wars. It's so good. Like, the amount of characters that we get in that episode between, you know, characters from the Mandoverse that we're familiar with, like Cobb Vanth, but then also seeing iconic Star Wars characters like Luke Skywalker, Ahsoka, R2-D2. It's the introduction of Cad Bane into live action for the first time ever. Like, what was not to love about that episode? We also got to see our pal Grogu and see what he was up to with, you know, all the Jedi training with Luke. Now, should Mando and Grogu have reunited so quickly? No. And that's why I think part of it would have helped if the final 3 episodes of Book of Boba Fett were actually the start to Mando Season 3. Because it's like, you can't go from watching Mando Season 2 to Mando Season 3 without watching the Book of Boba Fett. Or at least the final 3 episodes anyway. And I've made videos on it, you guys, and if I remember to, I'll link them in the description below or at the end of this video, but there was no reason for Grogu to be involved with The Mandalorian Season 3. It made no sense at all. Like, if you want to have them reunite by the end of it, that's fine, but he was only there because the powers that be thought, well, we have to have him on screen for people to be interested. Because they got it in their own heads that, oh crap, we've made like this, you know, money-making machine in Grogu, we have to have him there, instead of serving the story at hand, which would have been him training with Luke, which, again, was the best part about the Book of Boba Fett was that episode. So yeah, you guys, that's all I've got to say about it. Overall, I would say, like, the first half of Book of Boba Fett, probably a C. Second half of it brings it up to a B. But you guys, you'll have to let me know in the comments below what you guys think of this show. As always, be respectful of everybody's opinions, and make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, share this video with others to help support the channel, and I will see you guys next time.